Recording is in progress. So the beginning of every class, we need to make sure that the class is being recorded. So they will start the recording from their side, that admin people. Okay. Yeah, welcome to the course of Docker and Kubernetes. When we are discussing about Docker and Kubernetes, we are talking about containers. What is a container? In real time, in non-software world, we see that container is an empty box which is used to carry goods and other materials in various transportation modes like airways, railways, roadways, and mainly the waterways in the ships. Then the same analogy has been adopted in software industry where we can run the multiple applications in an isolated manner. And what we saw is the boot up time, even though I didn't do that practical, today we will be doing most probably. So the boot up time for Docker containers is very low. That means they are very super fast. Boot up time is less means they will be launched very swiftly. And here we have eliminated the need for installing full-fledged operating system in case of Docker containers. But if we use hypervisor, here we have full-fledged operating system which consumes some system memory. And in this setup, we are dedicating the system resources upfront for every resource, every instance. But here the containers will be utilizing the underlying system resources as and when required, and they will also be using the system kernel, the host kernel only. They won't be having the kernel of their own. And here we will be installing a tool called Docker. This Docker tool is available for both Windows, Linux, and any other prominent operating systems. And one thing is, we will be dealing with the Linux containers in DevOps and deployments. And here the point to note is the containers will be utilizing the underlying operating system kernel. So that means if you are using the Linux kernel, if you are running the Linux based container, then the kernel should be Linux kernel. Okay. If you have the Windows operating system and we have the desktop, Docker desktop for Windows, and if you install Docker desktop for Windows, and if you run the Linux containers, it won't work. But what is the solution if you want to run the Linux based containers in Windows? In that, what we need to do is, in addition to installation of the Docker, we need to install Windows subsystem for Linux. Okay, so that you can install in this Windows, and these containers will be using that WSL, which stands for Windows subsystem for Linux. Okay, so that is the thing. These are all things that we have discussed. Now let's witness some of the features of the Docker today in this class. This is all theory that we have discussed. Now, how to install Docker? And before going to that, we need to be very familiar with the terms associated with the Docker technology. One is Docker. Docker is a containerization tool. Yesterday, I have drawn a diagram where I have shown that in case of container setup, we can package the application source code along with its libraries and we can ship it from one location to the other. Now, what is Docker? Docker will enable us such kind of containerization. So Docker is a containerization tool. Containerization tool. Containerization tool. What is container? Containerization. Containerization. The process of creating or launching containers is called containerization. Docker is a containerization tool. And what is container? Containerization, the process of creating containers, creating or running or launching containers is called as what? Containerization. Then what is container then? Container is nothing but a running instance of a Docker image. Okay. Container is nothing but what? A running instance of a Docker image. Here, if I come to this diagram, okay, no need to copy that. So here, this is a container. This is a running instance. For example, if you take some software, for example, you want to install something in your Windows machine, like Zoom. So to install Zoom, what we have to do, we have to download the Zoom application file. That application file you can relate to the image. And in other words, for example, if you want to install Ubuntu operating system, we need to download the Ubuntu ISO file. That file is nothing but the image. But when we double click and execute the Zoom file, then that will become the container. That becomes the running application. So here, the same thing. Okay. A running instance of a Docker image is called as what? Container. So container is nothing but what? Running. It's a running form. How to, where it is running from? Where it is running from? For example, let's suppose that we are installing Ubuntu operating system. Where that Ubuntu operating system is running from? That is running from a file called Ubuntu ISO file. So like here, the container is nothing but a running instance of a Docker image. So that means we will have a file called Docker image. Okay. When we execute this file, then that will become container. We have a Zoom application that you can think of the Docker image. When we double click and open the Zoom application, then that you can correspond to container. So when a file is executed, when a Docker image is executed, then it will come into running state. That running state of that image is called as what? Container. Then what is image? What is Docker image? Docker image consists of the application source code plus libraries. Okay. So this thing, actually, when we think of Docker image, this is what Docker image you can think of, but this is not the Docker image. After executing the Docker image, we will get this virtual machine called as container. Got it? Anyway, you will witness all these things practically. So Docker image consists of, it's a bundle. Docker image is nothing but a bundle of application along with its related libraries is called as what? Docker image. If you want to run Java application, the Java application, if you bundle with its dependencies like Java 8 JDK, then that will become Docker image. Once we execute the Docker image, it will become container, right? So these are the associated terminologies. So Docker we understood, containerization we understood, container we understood, Docker image we understood. All these files, all these Docker images will be stored in some central server called as container registry. Container registry, the server where container images images are stored. Container registry is nothing but what? A server where container images are stored. For example, where we will be saving our source code, the source code will be stored in some central servers called as repositories. For example, GitHub, Azure Repos, um, this Bitbucket. So like that, the container images. So this Docker image is nothing but what? Container image. Other name for the Docker image is container image, because from that images we will be running the container. So those container images will be stored in some central server called as container registry. So container registry is a place where all the Docker images are stored. Then Docker we will be installing in our machine. How to interact with the Docker? For that we have Docker CLI, Docker command line interface to interact with the Docker engine. Then let's understand, see all these things in real time. So the default public container registry is Docker Hub. Okay, and we will also play with the private container registry like Elastic Container Registry and Azure Container Registry. Also, I will show during the course. So container registry is a place where all the Docker images are stored. And for an organization, we will be having private container registries, but for all the Docker community, we have a public registry called as Docker Hub. Now, let's install Docker. Now, let's try to create a container. Now, how to install Docker? You don't need to go anywhere. Just refer to our document. Here, we have steps to install Docker. So before that, I need to get the Ubuntu machine. So my machine is Windows machine. In real time, what we will do, we will create EC2 instance in AWS. If you are using AWS cloud, then if you are using Azure, we will create the virtual machine. And in that, we need to install Docker. So now let me log into AWS Management Console, aws.amazon.com. I request all of you to create an AWS account. Even if you don't have, that is fine. You can install this Docker in your Windows machine also, or if you have any Linux machine, you can install there. Because I want to give you the real-time exposure, I want to create this in the AWS cloud only. Sign into the AWS console. If you click on this, here we need to give the username, user email address. Cloud DevOps Coach is my email address. Then click on next. Then password is automatically populated for me. Once password is entered, and if you click on sign in, it will take you to the AWS management console here. Okay. So now here, our desire is to launch, to get a Ubuntu machine, and that I'm trying to get it from the AWS. So in this AWS Management Console, you see services on the left top. Now click on services. In this, we have compute. Click on compute and click on EC2. As this is not the AWS class, I'm just telling the steps that are necessary to create Ubuntu machine. Okay, I'm not going deeper into the AWS things. Now, if you see here, we have instances here, we have instances here. You can click any of these two. I'm clicking instances here. Our, our goal is to get Ubuntu machine. Then click on launch instances. In Mumbai region, I don't have any instances. And one thing I have to mention here is we have another term called Docker host. Docker host is nothing but the machine in which Docker is installed is called as what? Docker host. Now we are going to create this Ubuntu machine for the Docker. So I can name this as a Docker host. By naming this as Docker host, it won't install Docker. Okay, now let's leave the naming aside. Now choose Ubuntu here. So this name you can give later also. And let me choose the AMI. We are trying to get the Ubuntu. Click on Ubuntu, and we have different versions of Ubuntu. If you click on this, you will get the different versions. Ubuntu 20, Ubuntu 22, and other versions. Ubuntu 22 is fine for me, or else let's take Ubuntu 20, which is stable version as of now. Then instance type. Instance type means how much of CPU and memory you want for that instance. I will take T2 dot medium, which contains two virtual CPUs and 4 GB of memory, and I will create a new key pair. I will create a new key pair. I will name it as Docker September, Docker September KP, something like that. The key pair name can be given anything. Create key pair. If I create key pair, the key pair will be downloaded into our downloads folder. So once that is done, once key pair is downloaded, then select existing security group here. Then I'm choosing the default security group. Security group consists of inbound and outbound rules. Then that's it. I'm not going deeper into other options that are available with it. Just I want to run one instance of this. Just click on launch instance. With that, EC2 instance will be started coming. Click on view all instances. See, it is in pending state. In 2 or 3 minutes, it will come. And as we are going to use this for Docker, so we can name this as Docker. Or in real time, how we will name it is dev Docker, Docker dev or dev Docker, Docker dev. It is our Docker prod. This is for production. So something like that we can name. So if you refresh this, so the instance is running, still the status checks are being initialized. Then how to connect to this machine? For that, if we have already knowledge about the Linux, through SSH port, we will be connecting to the remote machine. There are different SSH client available. You may be aware of PuTTY, but I'm not a big fan of it. I am comfortable in using MobaXterm. How to install MobaXterm? The MobaXterm is a tool to connect to the remote machine. Now, I'm clicking on this. Just download this. If you click on this, the zip file will be downloaded. And if you extract that zip, you will have MobaXterm application. So in that application, this kind of icon you will see. Once you double click on this, it will open. So in the MobaXterm zip, let it be downloaded so that you won't be having any confusion. Somebody asked in the last batch that, sir, can we use MobaXterm for real time? Yes, why not? This is just an SSH client. This is SSH. There is no harm in using this, and this is being used everywhere. In our project also we are using to connect to the remote machines. I don't know why it is taking this longer to download this 28 MB of file. I hope this is downloaded. Click on this. It will take us to that folder. See this mobile stem and all. This is not my laptop. This any system setting. And once that is extracted, you will see this folder. If you click on this, see, you will see this. Okay, so if you double click on this, it will open the mobile external for you. So if I click on this, see, mobile external is open. How to connect to this remote machine? Most of you may be aware of all these things, friends, but one or two people who are new to this world, they may not be aware of. Please be patient. So click on this instance ID and click on connect here. Here you will see both public IP and Ubuntu. Okay, so here in addition we will see the username. So copy the public IP from here. Just click on session, click on SSH, paste it here, specify username, check this box and give Ubuntu as the username. Click on advanced SSH settings, use private key, check this and browse for the private key. If you browse for it, you will see that you will see all the songs and all. Just choose this key pair, then see, this is the key pair that we have downloaded while we are launching the uh, instance. So once you click on OK, it will open the mobile external. It will connect to the that remote machine. See, we connected to the AWS EC2 instance, that is Ubuntu. And the advantage with the mobile external is that so you can see the file browser. So these are the files and directories that are related to this Ubuntu. If you use Putty or any other tool, I think this facility is not there. Okay. So now how to install Docker in this? Simply just come to our nodes. See, go to root account. Sudo su is the command to switch to the root account. Then update this, update the repository, apt repository, apc package manager, then install docker.io. Or else what you can do, you can get the script to install Docker from here and you can just run that script. But simply we can install this with the apt package manager also. With this single command, Docker will be installed in our machine. As Docker is installed now, it will be installed. Then this machine is called as what? Docker host, because it is became host for the Docker. So Docker will be installed. Then here, the thing is, here, this is the Docker host machine where Docker is running. What I said is, this is a container registry like Docker Hub. Docker Hub is the default container registry, public container registry. Now, to run a container, first, we need to download the Docker image. We need to download the Docker image. Where that image will be there? The images will be stored in the container registries. In our case, it is Docker Hub. We will see private container registries also. So the images which are stored here, what is image? Image is nothing but bundle of application source code along with its dependencies. So the images are stored here. All those images will be stored here. The image that you want to have a container for, then what you can do is you can download that image. We have to download that image. We have to download that particular image. And what we said, we have to execute this. Once we execute this, that will come into running state. That running state of that image is called as what? Container, which I'm representing with this particular polygon. Okay, so this is first we need to download the image. If we want to run a container, we need to download the image. Then we need to run it, that running instance of that image will be called as what? Container. Okay. So what I will show you now is I will try to run Jenkins in the container. And before that, I just wanted to show you how to install Jenkins in non-container method. So installing Jenkins in Ubuntu. If I browse for this, it will take us to the this thing. And if you click on Debian Ubuntu, so here the prerequisite to install Jenkins is minimum. These are the hardware requirements. We need to have minimum 256 MB of RAM, 1 GB of drive space, then 4 GB plus of RAM. Recommended is this one. Then all these things. Then these are all the software requirements. If you install all these things, then we need to execute these commands. So with this, what we can tell is that to install Jenkins, these are all the dependencies and these are all the things that we need to install, we need to run to install the Jenkins. But can we give a guarantee that even after doing all these things, Jenkins will be up and running? No. Something or other dependency may be missing or some version conflict may come. So all these things are very difficult to achieve. Even after doing all this donkey work, there is no guarantee that Jenkins will be up and running. But now let's feel it in the container world. In container world, to run Jenkins, first we need to download the Docker image for Jenkins. What I said, hub.docker.com. Docker hub is the public container registry. When I say public, the images that are available in the Docker hub are public in nature. Anybody can download it. So the website to go to Docker Hub is hub.docker.com. You don't need to have any account with Docker to download the images, but to push the images to the Docker Hub, we need to have account that we will learn going forward. Now, I will just search for Jenkins. You can search for Nginx, MySQL, Ubuntu, all those things. Tomcat server, all those things are available freely in the Docker Hub. So if you see this is deprecated, okay, we should not use this. This is the one that we need to use. So this is the image for Jenkins. This is the Docker image for Jenkins. So you can go to the documentation here. So these are all the details of the Jenkins Docker image. Now what I want to do is I want to run Jenkins in a container and access it. For that, what I said, we need to download the Jenkins Docker image. How to do it? For that, we have a command called docker pull. Docker pull. To download the images, we have docker pull. Docker pull. What is the image name? Here, the image name is nothing but this thing. See, here the command is also given. You can directly copy this. Docker pull Jenkins/Jenkins. So it is trying to pull the latest image. What is latest image? What is other image? All these things we will learn. The image is downloaded. I want to check once again what are all the images that are downloaded into my Docker Hub. Docker images or Docker image ls. To press this, see we can see that only one image is available, that is Jenkins. Some ID is allocated to that. It was created 35 hours ago. Actually, it was created many years ago, but it was updated 35 years ago. So that's why it is showing 35 hours ago. It is updated 35 hours ago. That's what it means. So the image is downloaded. How to run a container from this? Just without explaining more details about that, I just wanted to show you how to run Jenkins so that you can feel it. So don't worry about what is this command and all. So I just wanted to tell you 9090. If I access, see, my Jenkins application is up and running. How fast it is. Just I executed this command and immediately I see that Jenkins is up and running. Compare the steps that we have here and the steps that we have in the container. Containers are super fast. See, my Jenkins is up and running. I will give this Jenkins URL to you, and please any one of you try this and confirm here whether you are able to access my Jenkins or not. Whether you are in US or anywhere, you should be able to access my Jenkins. This is the beauty of the containers. We didn't install any dependency for Jenkins. All we have done is we have downloaded the ready-made image of the Jenkins from the Docker Hub. That Jenkins image consists of what? The Jenkins application and the libraries. Wait a minute, friends. Okay, so this is our Jenkins application. I don't see anybody pinging in the chat that you are able to access it. Can any one of you please try? Okay, otherwise leave it. So this is how we can do. This is the beauty of the containers. So later on we will see how to containerize our applications. Here we have seen the Jenkins application which is already containerized. We just are running this. Okay, Balaji, thanks for confirmation. He is able to access. So this is in the during the course of time, we have a concept called a Docker file using which we will containerize our own application. We will try to containerize different kind of applications like Java, Python, Node.js, other kinds of application we will try to containerize, and that is the main part of the Docker course. Okay, so here to just summarize here to run an application in a container, we should have Docker image. And there are some Docker images which are freely available in the Docker Hub. Those things we can download, and from that image we can run the container. Got it? Later, what we will do is we will make, we will create our own Docker images. We will store the Docker images in the Docker Hub and we can make them public so that anybody can download our Docker image. And later, We will also see how to restrict the access to the Docker containers by creating the private containers in the AWS and Azure cloud. Okay, so this is now we have to download the image. We have to run the container. Forget about this command. I didn't explain that. Now I wanted to see what are all the containers that are running in our Docker host machine. For that, Docker ps is the command to check the list of the containers that are running in our machine. See, we have only one container. See, the container name is my Jenkins. Okay, but how to run container, you don't know till now. That's what this course is for. Now let's come to our documentation and see if anything is missing. Let's come in sequence. So Docker is installed. There are two ways to install Docker. One is installation through apt package manager, or you can use the script. If you use this command, it will download the script into this file, and we can execute that script, and we can check the Docker version with this. Okay, so that is the thing. So the terminologies we have seen: Docker images, Docker containers, Docker host, Docker client. See what is happening. This is the Docker host machine. This is Ubuntu machine, and Docker is installed in this, and Docker is running as a daemon service. Now we are interacting with the Docker daemon with the Docker client, that is Docker CLI. Docker CLI is installed by default when we install Docker engine. We don't need to explicitly install Docker CLI. Got it? Then here, when we are running these commands, you don't know what these commands are. I will explain this going forward. The command will go to Docker daemon. Okay, it's not right time to explain this diagram because we need to learn few more things. So now to download the image, we need to use pull. To list out the images, we can use Docker image ls, Docker images. Now what I will do is Docker image ls, we have only one image. I want to pull another image. Docker pull nginx. Now we are trying to download the nginx image also. Now let's check Docker images. See, we have two images. Now, if you see what is the size of this image, see the size of the Nginx image is 187 MB. The size of the Jenkins image is 480 MB. So depending on the weight of the application, depending on the weight of the libraries, the image size will vary from image to image. Now let's pull Ubuntu image. Docker pull Ubuntu. Okay, this is an operating system based image where there is no application running inside of it. Okay, so here that means we can run Ubuntu container. Okay, so that means we can run Ubuntu virtual machine in the form of a container. Okay, and later we will see we can interact with these virtual machines called containers. We can interact with the terminal. We can create directories, we can create files, we can run application inside them. All those things we will see. It will be very beautiful. Now let's check Docker images. Docker images. See, we have downloaded 3 images. Now if you see, the size of the Ubuntu image is many times lesser than this Jenkins and Nginx image. Why? Because in Ubuntu there is no application installed, but in case of Nginx and Jenkins there is some application installed. So that's the reason the sizes of that images are little larger than this base Ubuntu image. And later what we will say is we will take this Ubuntu base image, we will install our own application, and if we install our own application, the size of this Ubuntu will increase to the extent based on the weight of the application and the application libraries that we are going to install. Okay, so all those things will be shown. Now These are three images. Now let's see how many containers are running. Docker PS. See, if you see only one container is running because we have run Docker run container from for only Jenkins. Okay, you remember I have run some Docker run some lengthy command. Okay, so this is only one container. Even though we have downloaded three images, but only Jenkins container is running because we have three images, but we have executed only one image, that is Jenkins image. So once that image is executed, that will become a running instance. That running instance of the Docker image is called as what? Container, which I have represented with this polygon. Now, the question Digvijay is asking is that is container and image is same? So you will get this doubt. So that's the reason I'm stressing this multiple times. Container image, that means the image is nothing but a file which consists of the application source code and the libraries. That files are stored in some central servers called as container registries. So that image we have downloaded, this is just a file. This is just a file kind of thing. These files will be stored in the var lib docker var lib docker. So in this directory, you will be having images and all those things. So you will be having this here. All these things are stored. Now let me enlarge it. So these are just files. See, Jenkins is a Docker image. Nginx is a Docker image. Ubuntu is a Docker image. But if I see Docker PS, we have only one container. Which container? Jenkins container. So images and containers are not the same. Image is just a file. Once we execute that file, that comes into running state, then that running state is called as what? Container. So, and we have executed only Jenkins, and Jenkins came into running state. So that's why this is Jenkins container. This is Jenkins image. This is Nginx image. There is no Nginx container as of now in this host. We didn't execute this. Now, what I will do? I will execute this Nginx also. So to run the container from the image, we will use a command called docker run. Docker run. Docker run. We want to run a container. To run a container, what is mandatory? The image is mandatory. That we need to supply it. The image name is Nginx. Docker run Nginx. I am running Nginx. If I run Nginx, see how much time it took for the Nginx to be up and running within no time. Just I executed this command. See, as soon as I executed, the Nginx application is running and the log started flowing on the console. Got it? So now, if this is the case, if this Nginx container is running, I'm not able to execute any other command due to this logs and all. Okay, these are the logs console. So there is an option called D to run the container in detached mode. So first I need to, otherwise what we have to do is we have to duplicate this tab. Now let me show you that thing also. Docker PS. If you see how many containers are running, Jenkins is a container, Nginx is a container, and if you don't give any name to the containers, some random name will be allocated to that. But here, every container will be assigned with an unique ID called as container ID. The name of the container Nginx container is strange buck. So this is randomly generated by the Docker. Later we will customize these names. Now, now here this thing is running. Now if I want to run another container, docker run Tommy, for that what we have to do? We have to pull Tomcat image first. The Tomcat image name is Tommy. We have Tomcat also. See, Tomcat image is downloaded. Docker run Tommy. That means I want to run a control from the C. Again, this is running. How beautiful it is. But do I need to create another terminal? So if you keep on this, you keep on doing it. See here, 3 containers are running, but is it ideal approach to create or to connect to that machine multiple times or duplicate the tab? So what we can do is we can run the containers in the detached mode in the background. How to do that? So what we can do is just simply I'm closing I'm just using Control C to exit from this. When I apply Control C, the container is stopped. I'm closing this tab because I don't want to work with multiple tabs. I also want to close this. And yes, see, now I'm applying Control C in this also, so that nginx container is also exited. Now Docker run. Now let's see what happens to the container. Docker PS. If you see, only Jenkins container was running because I used the Jenkins command with the D option that you didn't aware. Now here. Now what about the containers that we ran? Once after I applied Control C, what happened to them? For that, Docker PS -A. A stands for all. Docker PS will show only running containers, but if we want to see both running as well as stopped containers, we need to use A option. If I do this, see, here Jenkins container is running. It is up 16 seconds ago. These Tomcat and Nginx containers were in exit state because we have applied Control C. Got it. So that is the thing. So it is always recommended to use -A so that you can see both running as well as stopped containers. Got it? Now, having said this, Docker images, Docker ESA. Now, I want to remove these exited containers. Exited containers means stopped containers. Or I want to start it. To start the stopped containers, we have a command called, or else let me first do it. This thing, Docker. I want to remove these exited containers. These containers are stopped. I no longer want them to be up and running. I want to remove this. For that, Docker RM, Docker RM stands for remove. Docker RM, we need to give the container ID or the container name. So for this container, the container name is this one, Dazzling Solomon. For this container, this is strange bug, and this is the manually given name. So now I want to remove that, Docker remove. Now I also want to remove this thing. So if you see now Docker PS-A, we see that only one container is there, and that container is up 18 minutes ago. Okay, so those two containers which were in exit state are removed. Now I want to run the container again, nginx container, and I don't need to pull that image again, the nginx image, because that nginx image is already downloaded into our machine. We have removed only nginx container, not the image. Image is still there in our Docker host machine. So this is the image that is already there. Now, how to run the container again? Same command, Docker run. Nginx is the image. Now this time I want to run this in detached mode. Detached mode. If I run this in detached mode, see what happened? We don't see that container logs on the screen, so that I can happily run another command here, right? So that is the beauty of this D option. Now let's check the running containers. Docker ps -a. See, we see that nginx container is running and it was up 20 seconds ago. And the ports are this thing. Okay, you will understand ports and all those things going forward. Now, how to stop it? Docker ps docker stop. Now, I want to create another container. I want to create another container using the same nginx image. Can I do this? Yes, I can do this. So if you see, we have nginx image and we have created a container from the nginx image. Now, I want to run another container from the same image. Can I do it? Docker run. Again, I want to run this in detached mode. And again, I'm giving that image. I'm running this. Now, if I use Docker PS, if you see, just to avoid confusion, to get everything in a single line, see, we have two nginx containers. So one nginx container name is cranky gauss, another container is pensive chatlet. Okay, these are randomly generated names. You don't need to worry about it. See, they are unique. Even though they are using the same image, they are unique in their IDs. So that means this is a different container. This is different container. Of course, they are same containers because they are using the same image, but two containers are running from the same image. Now, let's keep these containers running. Now, see, every container will be having an unique container ID. Got it? No two containers will have same IDs, right? Now, Docker image ls. Now, how to remove the images? So if you keep on pulling the images, the disk space will be uh, overutilized. So that means you will get error saying that no disk space future. Now, I want to remove the images which we are not using. For example, Ubuntu we are not using. Let's remove it. How to remove an image? To remove a container, we have docker rm command. To remove image, docker rmi. Docker rmi. You can use either image ID. You can use either image name. See, now docker image ls. If you see that Ubuntu image is removed or deleted. Now let's remove nginx image. Docker rmi nginx. See, error response from daemon conflict unable to remove repository reference nginx because a container with this id is using this image. So the conclusion here is that once an image is being used by any container, then that image we can't remove. To remove that image, first we need to remove the container, then only we can remove the image. Now, docker remove. I want to remove the containers. Docker ps, docker remove, docker rm. This thing we are getting. See, we are getting error.
Yeah, sir. What is demon? Demon.
Digvijay is saying, can you please ping in the chat?
Okay.
Not able to hear. Some issue with my earphones. I think input is fine, but for output, I'm facing some difficulty. So can you please ping it in the chat? Okay. So now we are getting the error. You cannot remove your running content. What is saying? Daemon. So daemon is nothing but what the service which is running in the background. So Docker that we have installed is that. So a daemon means a Docker daemon. Okay. So error response from daemon, you cannot remove a running container. So earlier we have used docker rm for the container which is in exited state, which was in stopped state. But This thing we are using for the running container. So we can't remove a running container. To remove a running container, first we need to stop it. Now let's stop it. Docker stop. To stop a container, we have docker stop command. Docker stop. Now if you see the container is stopped, that is in exit state. Now let's try to remove it. If I do this and if I see that container is successfully removed, but you won't get the output like removed, just you will get, if the command is succeeded, then you will get the ID. Docker ps, if you see that container is removed. And we have we have one more nginx container, which makes us difficult to remove the image. Okay, so to remove the nginx image, we need to remove all the containers either running or stop, which are using that image. Now this time I want to remove this container, but I don't want to stop it explicitly. Docker rm, if I use rm, it will throw error because the container is running. We can't remove it. We can forcibly remove it by applying f command, f option. So what this f option will do is, it will stop the container, and after that rm command will be executed. So to remove a running container, we have to stop it first and remove it, or else we can just use f option, which stands for force. So forcibly the container will be stopped and it will be removed. Docker images, docker ps. If you see, we have only Jenkins. Now let's try to remove nginx image. Docker rmi. See, that image is removed. If you see, docker, that image is the nginx image is removed. Got it? So these are some of the basic commands and very important commands. These are very important commands, and we will see more commands, and we will see how to run containers, how to port map, how to go inside the shell of the container, how to pass environment variables, many things, many beautiful things we will learn in this course. Got it? And there is a message from the institute people, guys, and just they called me. So because of the weekend, so tomorrow is Friday, there is some festival for Muslims or somewhere, I don't know, but because of this weekend and all, 30 Saturday and Sunday, that is weekend anyway. Because these are the demo classes, we won't be having classes on Saturday, but regular classes after new link is changed, we will be having classes on Saturday also. So again, our class will be on Wednesday on 4th. I don't know why they have made this arrangement. Your class will be again on 4th due to this weekend and other things. I don't know what are other things, but weekend is there. We will be meeting again on Wednesday, that is 4th, friends. And meanwhile, what you can do is, you have to complete the payment formalities so that you will be eligible for the class on 4th, 4th October. And the weekend is that we have Gandhi Jayanti, and this institute have the uh, tradition of giving the holiday on Gandhi Jayanti also. That is on Monday. And Tuesday, I don't know what other thing is there. So we will be joining again on Wednesday. Only for this time, these many days, we won't be having class. But every day we will be having class except on Sunday after the 4th October. Got it? So evening batch. Deepak, sorry, because of the project and all, I am not able to take the class on evenings because of time constraint for me. So Deepak is sleeping very late night. That is not good for health. Early to bed, early to rise. But I don't know what are the compulsions that we have. So yeah, and Deepak, one thing is that uh, you can watch the videos, and I am 100% sure that you will be able to understand it at your convenience. Yeah, Balaji, we won't be having any class tomorrow. The next class will be on 4th of October, that is Wednesday. And demo class means these are regular classes only, but because this link is available for all, irrespective of the payment, we are calling this as demo class. Okay. So these are regular. The class will be continued on 4th. And Deepak, for you, you can go through the recording. That will be better for you. Okay. There is no evening class. And Digvijay Singh is asking about the course details. Let me briefly tell it without wasting much time on it. So the course is Docker and Kubernetes. Once it is combined course of Docker and Kubernetes. So duration is 45 days. We will be getting live classes plus recordings in Google Drive, plus my entire notes, which I have shown. For Docker, it is about 70 pages. For Kubernetes, about 100 pages. The entire notes will be given to you. And classes will be from Monday to Saturday. Only on Sunday, we won't be having class. And what other things I have to tell here? Course fee is 4,000 INR. 4,000 INR. This is the fee. Okay. And on 4th October, you will be people we have paid for it. They will be getting the Google Drive with all the videos and the notes. Notes I will be uploading. Videos will be uploaded. Deepak, sorry for that. We don't have 7 a.m. batch. Also, we have only 6 a.m. batch. Okay. Docker and Kubernetes duration participated live class. Okay, these are the course details. I hope the course is value for money, and you may not be, but you may not be happy with this long duration, that is 45 days, but I don't compromise on the quality and the content. So that's the reason I'm taking little longer, 45 days, because some of you have said that, sir, the DevOps course is being completed, entire DevOps course is completed in 45 days. Why you are taking 45 days for this Docker and Kubernetes alone? So that thing I will leave to you only. Okay, so because you will be learning the things intensively and extensively, so please subscribe to this course, friends. Getting real-time project example, yes, everything we will be doing is real-time only. Yeah, thank you guys. Let's meet on 4th October, that is Wednesday. Bye bye, enjoy. Thank you. 45 days, and the classes will be about 35. We will be having about 35 classes over a span of 45 days. Okay. Yeah. Thank you all. Bye. Thank you very much. Please complete the payment formalities. They have given the phone pay numbers and all in the chart, or they will be following up to the phone calls also. Thank you all. Enjoy.